What's up, everyone? So excited today. I'm super excited today. My next guest is going to be absolutely amazing. So, my name is Dr. Tamika Ellington, and I'm your host. For those of you that don't know me, I am an educator, a researcher, a motivational speaker, and a lover of all things educational advancement. And this is Student Access 101, where we discuss critical conversations in the pursuit of equitable education for those individuals who are first generation and underrepresented. And so I'm excited today. The individual that we're going to be talking to is someone that's quite special to me. He and I met about a year and a half ago. He is one of my brothers in the Next Level Speakers Academy. And if you're interested in wanting to become a speaker, I highly recommend Next Level Speakers Academy. Just the networking alone, the people that you meet alone is definitely a priceless thing that you can't put a price on it. Just like the individual that I met, the relationship that I've been able to build with him, as well as other people in the academy, is just priceless. And so when I first met him, I remember we were at the very first conference that the academy did, and he had the biggest smile on his face, always very energetic. And what I love about him is that his energy is very contagious. Any room that he's in, he's going to empower and uplift any crowd that he's a part of. And so I'm just super excited. My next guest is Wydrate Nelson, aka Wydrate the Motivator. What's up, brother?
Oh man, I'm just glad to be here. Thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, absolutely. And so I'm going to read your bio so that everybody knows how amazing you are and some of the impact that you've been having on the communities that you serve. And so, Wydrate Nelson, aka Wydrate the Motivator, is an award winning humanitarian speaker, poet, author, certified life coach, and education consultant who activates different techniques to engage, motivate, inspire, educate, and empower audiences. Sounds like my kind of person. Wydrate's mission is to be a global leader in the motivation and coaching education industries, building relationships on a passion for serving, living a motivated lifestyle, and striving for greatness. As you can see, he has on his Be the Greatest gear. Absolutely. Wydrate has over 20 years of professional experience, including being a high school and adult educator, management leadership roles, marketing associate, financial recovery specialist, and he's worked in industries including professional services and depository institutions. Wydrate lives in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, and he resides there with his lovely wife, Dr. Kendra Stewart Nelson, and their four children, Eden, Noah, King, and Zion. And what's the newest baby's name? You guys
That's
just had a
Zion.
baby.
Yeah, that's
That's
Zion.
Zion.
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
youngest.
what a blessing. What a blessing. Student Access 101. I give to you, Wydrate the Motivator.
Yeah. So glad to be here. Let me give you your flowers because the work, the impact, and the leadership that you are exhibiting, not only in the next level community, but in your own community, is inspiring. So I'm just loving how you're putting down what God has blessed you to do, and just the level of leadership that you're showing for our community is truly inspiring. And I appreciate you for
Thank
sharing your
you.
platform with me. Truly.
Absolutely. It's a blessing. And so tell us a little bit about you, where you grew up, how you grew up. Tell us just a little bit about your upbringing.
You know, it's funny. As I grew up in a little small town called Dublin, Georgia. So I currently live in Phoenix. So anytime you reference Georgia, people assume that you live outside of Atlanta somewhere. They always, oh, you from Atlanta? I'm like, no, I'm from Dublin, Georgia. Dublin, Dublin, Georgia. It's not. It's definitely not Atlanta. You know, I grew up. My parents had me when they were teenagers. So my mom, dad were like 18, 19 years old when I was born. So they both joined the military early. So I spent a lot of time with my grandparents growing up, which is the foundation of my life. So truthfully, we grew up on a dirt road. We grew the majority of our food as a kid. Like when I say we grew the
Wow.
majority of our food, like if we had from tomatoes, peas, corns, watermelon, cantaloupe, we grew sugar cane to make our own syrup,
What?
corn. Yeah, we killed our own animals in the back. Our chickens. We wanted eggs. We got it out the chicken coop. We wanted chicken. We killed the
Wow.
chicken. We had pigs in the back. We had deer. We had goat, possum, raccoon, squirrel. So I grew up with a very unique palate for a
Yeah.
variety of different
Wow.
for a
Wow.
variety of different.
I remember my grandfather, most of my family's from Birmingham too.
Oh yeah, see they can
And
relate.
so I remember my grandmother, my granddad, we had came to come and spend the night with them. And he was like, here, won't you taste this barbecue? I just made this barbecue. And I was like, oh yeah, let me taste it. It looked so good. I was like, okay, granddad, like, let me taste it. He gave it to me and I started eating. And I was like, what is this? I said, this tastes a little bit different. It was barbecue raccoon.
Yeah, that cool. That
Oh
possum.
my word.
So it wasn't like we set out to intentionally just eat raccoons or squirrels or rabbits or possums. But when you grow your own food, that's also a food source for those animals. So when we would set the traps to catch those animals to keep them from eating up our food source, then they would become part of the food chain at that point, where we would then capture them and then they would get consumed as well. So yeah, it was all part of the process.
Wow. Well, I'm sure you have some skills that many people don't have.
Yeah, when you grow up, it becomes a part of who you are. So you don't necessarily look at it as skills that other people don't have. It's just things that just become a necessity in order for you to live or to grow up in a certain environment or a certain lifestyle. Because there are other people who grew up different than I, who have a whole different set of skills than what I would have because of just how they were cultivated as a person.
Well, Wydre, I grew up in the inner city of Cleveland. We grew up on concrete. I did not learn how to cut grass until I was well into my 20s when I bought my first house. That's the first time I learned how to cut grass.
So I guess y'all
didn't have grass.
So y'all didn't have no coons and possums and squirrels and rabbits for dinner then.
No, like I don't know where my granddad got that coon from.
If he's in Birmingham, then that's part of the lifestyle down south, especially the newer generation, not so much. But when my grandparents were around, yeah, that was a thing. That's food. That's supper. Like, what you call rabbits? We're gonna have some stewed rabbit tonight. It'd be
my goodness. Now that to me, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, some stewed rabbit.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Rabbit's very muscular, so they're kind of tough, you eat rabbit.
That's interesting. So is Dublin, is it anywhere close to Fort Valley?
Absolutely, it is. It's about 45 minutes from Fort Valley. Absolutely. Very familiar.
How many
with Fort
minutes?
Valley. About 45 minutes from Fort Valley. We call it Fort Valley, where we from, Peach County. Yeah, some of my closest friends. One of my closest friends, Mendez Hollis and Ferris, Charles Smith. They're from. They graduated from Peach County High in Fort Valley. Fort Valley. Shout out to all my people.
I'm going to Fort Valley. I'm going to Fort Valley on Monday.
What? You gonna be in Fort Valley? Girl,
I'm scared. They keep telling me, they were like, it's very rural here. So
it's rural. It's very rural. Are you flying into Atlanta?
Yep.
See, Atlanta is Atlanta, but Fort Valley is Georgia. So it's a difference between Atlanta and Georgia. So you're going to Georgia now.
Right.
Yeah, you get a chance to see Georgia. But Fort Valley, Peach County is very loving people. It's very brown there. Very, very brown. Yeah, it's a lot of very, 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 very brown. So it's a lot of minority people there in Fort Valley State University. I know a lot of wonderful people who attended Fort Valley. It is very impactful to the community where I'm from because it's all part of the Middle Georgia area. So we're all part of that same family. So shout out to everybody in Peach County, man.
Yes,
Middle Georgia, Warner Robins, Macon, the whole Middle Georgia area, man. It's a bunch of beautiful people that live in the area. Milledgeville too.
Well, I can't wait to meet them. I cannot wait to meet them. I'm gonna.
You're gonna love them.
Yeah, I can't wait. They already told me that they're gonna be taking me to different places so I can get my peach pies and get on my puck. They said pecan pie too is really.
You gotta have that pecan pie. Yeah, pecan pie is delicious. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna love Fort Valley. Fort Valley. Now you tell them.
I gotta make sure I say it right. Fort Valley.
Fort Valley. Now, if you're from outside, then it's Fort Valley. Or the sophisticated folks may say Fort Valley. But I'm from Dublin, so we be like Fort Valley. Where you from Fort Valley? Be like, well, don't try to don't try to look it up based upon how we tell you, how we pronounce it. You might not find it on the map.
That is funny. Oh my goodness. So I'm excited about that. So
You should be, because you're gonna
yeah,
love folk
yeah,
battle.
yeah. I'm excited. So how did you start your journey of being a motivational speaker? Like you had several different industries that you worked in, and so how did becoming a motivational speaker even come to you?
You know, it was in fifth grade at Southwest Lawrence Elementary School in Dublin, Georgia, or Rent, Georgia, I think specifically. I remember hearing Zig Ziglar speak the first time,
Mm,
and then I heard Zig Ziglar speak, and my English teacher would always put on these Zig Ziglar tapes, and I would
nice.
listen to Zig Ziglar, and I just noticed how he made me feel, and it was in me to say, "Oh man, I want to make people feel like that." And it wasn't until I saw Les Brown when there's a video of Les Brown speaking at the Georgia Dome. It may have been 1992, and it was like 80 something thousand people in there.
I
And
saw the video. I
yes,
saw it.
so that video then back in in the 90s was the video that gave me the idea of like that's exactly what I want to do. And it wasn't because he was speaking in front of the people, but it was because how they made me personally feel. And I was like, I want to do that for other people. The same thing that they
Mm,
did, I want to do it. But we went into a different route in entertainment. So we were heavily into the music, you know, throughout my late teens and throughout all my 20s. We was very heavily involved into the music. And even in the music, I never cursed. It was always positive, always with an inspirational tone, because my aspiration always was to venture into speaking. But in my mind, it was like, that's my later thing. I'm going to do
mm.
this now, but ultimately that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to do it when I get older. And then now I'm older, and now it's just kind of, I put everything else aside, and it's kind of my centralized focus is just kind of just being the greatest inspiration that I can personally be, just myself to other people, and give back to other people what people have given to me, just in terms of
Absolutely.
encouragement, being positive, just saying kind things, uplifting. So all of those things that I've given, I just want to give it back because it's reciprocal. You can't just expect to take, and not give it back. So I just want to give it back the same way it's been given to me. And the things that you need, you got to give it away. So, you know,
Absolutely.
I need motivation. I need encouragement. I need positivity in my life. That's kind of my defense mechanism against a lot of adversity. So I can't just expect
Mm,
to get it for other people without giving it myself. So I try to give it as
mm.
much as I can just to get it reciprocated.
That's
So,
pretty deep what you just said there, because a lot of people will get into the speaking industry because, I mean, it's the potential to make a really good living, but a lot of
mm-hmm.
people don't get into it. As Jeremy, our coach and mentor, will talk about, is your heart right? You
Yeah.
got to do a heart check to make sure that you're doing this for the right reasons. Because if you're really not into really loving the people, you're not going to be successful at this job.
Nah,
At
you're
this
not.
kind of, yeah, you're not going to be successful. You got to love the people.
And the people will know it too. It's just like
Oh yeah.
I used to work for Bank of America. I had a unique position. One of my positions was I was a delight specialist. And that was a delight specialist. If you ever listen to me, I use colorful words a lot. People ask how you doing. I'm always gonna say beautiful, magnificent, sensational, outstanding. And as a delight specialist, these were the words we would integrate into our conversation. I also learned this training as a youngster working for Chick-fil-A as well. That was one of my first real jobs, was working for Chick-fil-A. So just being a delight specialist and using your words in the most positive way, just
Right.
at all times. So, you know, just being cultivated through all of these different tasks or jobs or responsibilities really helped cultivate me into becoming, you know, the person that I am now. So
Wow.
it all plays a
Wow.
role into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And so not only are you a speaker, but you're author of
Yeah.
four books, right?
Yeah. You know what? To be honest, it's like 4 that I have published, but on my computer, I have probably like 4 or 5 other books I just haven't had a chance to get through the publishing process yet. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
have.
mean, oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I'm so impressed. I mean, you just came out with your book, Stage 4,
Yes.
which you dropped right after, you announced that you were in remission and that you were feeling better. And that book dropped like soon after that. And
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, like, I mean, I was just so inspired because I had been working on a book myself. I'm like, damn, I better get my book together. It's
Well,
like,
you know,
you know,
You know what? I had surgery in December, and as I was recovering from surgery, I had nothing to do. I wasn't on pain pills. I had to sleep a certain way. I couldn't lay down flat because the gravitational pull on my body was too much. So I had to
Yeah.
sit so my body could kind of stay. So when I would wake up, I just didn't have anything to do. So I didn't want to watch TV because I noticed how I would have these crazy, what they call them? Are those lucid dreams? Is that the term? I don't know if that's the right term or not. I don't know what lucid dreams are, but I was having some crazy dreams. So I stopped watching TV before I go to sleep, and I became very conscious of the music that I would listen to before I go to sleep. And I noticed how all this stuff was impacting my mind. So I'm just sitting there literally like trapped inside of myself. And I just needed a way to be able to get everything that was crammed inside of my mind, outside of my mind. And to be honest, I was traumatized. So I wrote the book kind of like as trauma therapy. It's so bad that I can't even read it. Like you know what I mean? Like I got it out, but to go back through it again now, it's like, oh my God. I have to call my homeboy, but man, can you just proofread this for me, bro? Like I can't even do it right now. Like I still can't even really do it because there's so many trigger points in there that I function through my trauma, but that don't mean I'm not traumatized.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. When is the book going to be available? Because I can't.
It's available. It's actually available right now. You can go to my website. I got a Stage 4 Embracing a New Start. And then, Cultivating Motivated Mindset. What's crazy about this book? I published this book. I didn't write it to publish it. I wrote it to be a course because at the time I was a high school teacher. And as a teacher, I was looking at a resource that my fellow teachers could use, and just a mindset that my students needed. So when I wrote it, I never wrote it to even intend to publish it. And it wasn't until I got sick that I was like, oh my God, I need to just put something out there in the event that, the unlikely happens, that I at least gotta have something. So what my mindset was around this? It's gonna sound crazy, right? I said, all right, this picture is a good picture. I would approve this for my obituary in case I die.
That's deep. Yeah. That's the book. I have that book. I do have that one. Yeah.
So this one was written for high school students, for high school teachers, for them to be able to have some strategies in terms of things that they could do to implement into their classroom strategies. Right. But what's crazy is after I was diagnosed, well, I guess we ain't even gotten to all that yet, have we? Do we need to back up and tell that a little bit more of the the pre-story?
We can let this flow. Just let it flow. Okay. Yeah.
So after I was diagnosed, I went back and I used this book, and I did all of the exercises in the book as it applied to my situation. So this book actually has a deluxe version, which is probably about another 15,000 words that go and just show how I applied everything that I talked about, every single principle to my life. So the deluxe version of this book is coming out. New picture, new everything. This picture here, I think I was 240 pounds.
Wow.
See, I take up the whole cover of the book.
Wow.
Yeah, I was chunky then. I'm still kind of chunky, but I was a different chunky then. Yeah, so I wrote that book, and then I have this book here, From Me to You. And you see the title, From Me to You, that stands for Firmly Rooted, Optimistic Mind, Meditating Every Day, Taking Opportunity, Years of Understanding, Volume 1, The Poetic Express. I released this book. Yeah, I released this book on my birthday. This was like my gift to the world. So it's like, man, okay, in case something happens to me, I don't survive, I don't make it out of my situation, then this would be my gift to the world. It's just a biographical sketches, it's poetry, is speeches, is just a collection of a variety of different things. And also there are 2 EPs. So the book actually has a soundtrack. So anybody who gets this book, if you scan the front of the book, the QR codes, then you get the soundtracks for free. So there are actually 2 soundtracks of music that go along with this book. So this was released on my birthday, kind of like my gift to the world, From Me to You. In case I don't make it out, this is something I felt. This is something I thought. These are thoughts that were on my mind. And I always say with this book that I didn't set out with the intention to write this book. I just wrote what I felt. And as a result of that, the book wrote itself. And that's kind of how that book came about. But I write all the time. I have hundreds of thousands of words just sitting on my computer. So I'll have more books coming out for sure.
That's just, I mean, it's just amazing, and I'm just so honored to be able to talk to you now about your journey. This is a celebration of June is Cancer Survivors Month,
Yes.
and one of the things that I think hit different about your situation is to see how amazing you handled everything. I mean, you were just so positive through the entire thing. At least that's what we saw. Your community, your brothers and sisters, that's what we saw. But I was just amazed. My grandparents, I had three grandparents that I knew, and all three of my grandparents passed from cancer. By the time I was 15, I had no more grandparents. And I wish that they would have had some of what you had, some of that fight. I mean, you were fighting straight through it. Your attitude was always positive, that we could see.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you had some of your days where you were down, but for the most part, I mean, every time I would see you, you would always have a smile on your face. Energy was always wonderful, and I'm sure that had a big impact on how well you were able to get.
Yeah, it did for sure. There's this book called The Art of Happiness by Chris Prentice, and in that book he references, I think it's Dr. Espinosa's research that he represents. I hope I'm not messing up his name, but the book is correct. The Art of Happiness, and he talks about how every minute through cellular respiration we have a cell that dies, and then you have a new cell that's born and replace that old cell, and the new cell that's born will mimic the vibrations of what's going on in your body. The same way like my little son, I have a 2-year-old son. His name is King, and I call him Little Me. And King follows me around all the time. This is his Be the Greatest hat right here. Man, I took him to his first game last night. He had his hat on. He's following me around. So he sees me. He wants to be like me. Like that's Little Me. So he sees the example that I set. These cells in your body do the exact same thing. So the same way my son wants to be like me, these cells wants to be like the examples of what's going on in your body. So as your body is vibrating a certain way, if you're sad and you're depressed and you're down, every minute that's 300 million new cells that think that's the norm, and they're gonna be sad and depressed. And now you sad for 2 minutes. Now you got 600 million cells. If you go a whole day, 8 hours, and you sad and you depressed, you literally created 108 billion new cells that want more sadness and depression. Over the course of 60 days, you can flip out your whole new blood supply to where your whole body is sad and depressed. So it's not just you mentally, but the vibrations and the cells and everything in your body want more depression because they think that's the norm. Now you got to reverse that and create 300 million new cells over the course of 60 days to reverse that. So me understanding the research and the science that had already been done, I've tried to figure out how that applied to my life and my situation. So if my mindset was a certain way, then it was going to send vibrations through my body that demanded more of that, and that would have been detrimental to me. I talk about it in my book, Steer Clear. And that's the philosophy that I used was the Steer Clear philosophy. And in Steer Clear, it's just a digital book. So I haven't released it as a physical book, but it's a digital book that kind of talks about the philosophy where steer is a STEER. So S is your situation. My situation was, I had cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer. Right after I was diagnosed with cancer, I was upgraded to stage 4 cancer. That was my situation. There's nothing I can do about it. That's my S. The next thing that happens after you get a situation is you have your T, which is your thought. So you're going to think about your situation. Whatever you think, good, bad, indifferent, negative, whatever you think, it's going to create an emotion or feeling inside of yourself. So now you got your S situation, you got your first T, which is your thought, and you got your E, which is your emotion. Based upon your emotion or how you feel is going to determine your next E, which is your execution or what you do. So how you execute yields your R, which is your result. Your result goes back to what you think and not your situation. So if you change your thought around your situation, it's going to change how you feel. It's going to change what you do. It's going to change your result. But if you allow your situation to be an excuse or to dominate you, then you always going to get a bad result because the feeling that you have around your situation, which is predicated off of your thought, is not going to support the results that you want because you're not thinking the right way. So when you get faulty results behind the situation, sometimes you just got to change your thought, which change your feelings, which change your emotions, with your execution, which gives you a different result. And it's crazy because
Woo!
when you're mad, you can't just go from, you know what I mean, thinking I want to smack or I want to whatever you want to do to, all right, let me think about it more positive. And that's where the clear part comes in. And with the clear, CLEAR, the C is for center. You know, a lot of us sit with bad posture all day and we breathing in and out. So our lungs are just doing this.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
not appropriately oxygenating our body. We're not thinking clear. So when you center yourself, you know, you sit up, posture yourself, you
Yeah.
breathe, you shift yourself into an alpha wave level of consciousness. You know, there are 4 levels of consciousness. You have,
Absolutely.
you know, delta,
Yes.
you got
Alpha, beta.
theta.
Yes.
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
you got delta, theta, alpha, beta. Now, this is what I've learned because this was me. You know, the 4 levels of consciousness, you got delta is like when you sleep, your brain is oscillating at a very
Yes.
low rate. Your subconscious brain is primarily dominating right now.
Yeah.
Theta is that transitional piece where you kind of sleep, you kind of wake. Your subconscious, and you know, I mean, you're kind of like this. You're not all the way there. You're not all the way there. You're kind of transitional. Then
Right.
you have alpha, which is our meditative zone. This is our peace. This is where our thoughts are, you know, harmony. This is where the Buddhist monk, this is where we go when we do yoga and meditate. We're at peace. We can think very clear. And then we have beta. This is a high level of cognitive processing where the stress is.
Right.
Most of us go straight from delta sleep straight to beta.
Yeah.
And we don't spend any time in just gradually waking up and transitioning or resting our mind or relaxing or meditating or just being focused or not stressed out. And then we go so super hard that when we get home, we crash. So now we go from 4 straight to 1. The next morning, the alarm clock goes off real loud. We jump up, go right back to 4, drinking coffee to slam us farther in the 4, and then we go until we burn out, and then we go from 4 right back to 1. And if you know anything about driving a stick shift car, you know, if you just go from first gear to fourth gear, you know what I mean, your car gonna be jerky, and you're gonna, and that's the same thing that majority of us go through in our life is we're going through that process where we're going from first gear all the way to fourth gear without spending enough time in each of those phases. So when you center yourself, what you're doing is you're consciously taking yourself from beta, where the stress is, shifting yourself consciously into an alpha wave level of consciousness so you can think more clearly. So when you revisit that thought, you can revisit it with a clear mind and versus, you know, bringing all of that.
This hyper stressed out mind.
Exactly. So now, you know, you center yourself, you sit, good posture, you just breathe. So allow your body to just relax, to bring your temperature down a little bit. So that way you're not dealing with the stress of the situation. You got to listen to yourself. Okay, what am I thinking? What's going through my head? I want to smack them. Okay, I can't smack them. You know, don't do that. Calm down. See what's going on in your brain. And now the E, so you got center yourself, listen to yourself, see what's going on in your brain. Then you have E, which is envision. What do you want to see? You got to see what you want to see. So now you start to say, okay, ideally, what would this situation look like? Then you got to affirm it, which is your A. So you got center yourself, listen to yourself, envision what you want to see. You affirm it, you speak it. I'm going to beat cancer. I'm going to be a 40-year cancer survivor. You speak it, you affirm it, you say it, and then you release anything that doesn't. The goal is to receive. The goal is to receive, but you got to release it first. You got to think, what's stopping me from receiving what's coming to me? You got to let that go. And as soon as you release it, then you make room to receive what's coming to you. So now that you're ready to receive, you revisit your situation again with a clear mind. And now you come with a different thought. And then if you don't get that right feeling when you're thinking, then you got to do what I say, instantly create a new thought. That's I can't. Anytime you say I can't, instantly create a new thought. So create a new thought until you get the right emotion. When you get that right feeling and that right vibration, then you execute, and you're going to yield a result based upon that higher level of thinking and not the frustrated mindset that you entered it with.
Right.
So that was the philosophy that I used all the way through, was you got to steer clear. You know, don't let your situation dominate you. You got to take control of your own mindset, because your situation is just your situation. I went to the doctor 6 times in a row, and they gave me the worst news in the world. So from that point, I was just like, I'm not looking at this news as good or bad no more. I'm just going to look at it as information. and I'm going to take the information and do what I need to do with it so I can survive. But they was telling me stuff, and they was like, man, people like, oh, let's pray. We're going to pray for this. And whatever we prayed for, it was exact opposite of that. And I had to accept the fact that, man, maybe the will that I got for my life may not be the will that God got for my life. They could be two different things, and I could be praying for something that ain't going to never happen because that ain't God's will for my life. So I had to really just change how I thought about it, how I approached it, and just really that would have a major impact on how I was able to facilitate myself through that whole situation. I knew something was coming. I mean, it's life.
Wow. I gotta get that one too. Why? I gotta get that one too. Why, Drake? What was the other book that you talked about? That was the one that inspired your Steer Clear book. What was that one?
That is the Steer Clear. So the Steer Clear. So I have Steer Clear, Cultivating a Motivated Mindset from Me to You in Stage 4.
So Steer Clear is the one where you talk about the cell development. But there was something that there was another author that inspired that book.
Oh, that was the author. That's The Art of Happiness by Chris Prentice. The Art of Happiness by Chris Prentice. That's where you'll find out about the part about the cellular respiration and how there is a mind, body, and spirit connection beyond, just what we think about on the surface level. So that's yes, Chris Prentice is the author of that book.
I got
Phenomenal book. It's one of my favorite books. I bought that book probably like 4 or 5 times.
Did you
if
really?
I lose it, every time I lose it or I can't find it, I just buy it. And then if I buy it and I have 2, then I just give one to somebody.
Yeah.
I had another book called Seed of the Soul by I think it's by Gary Zukav. Was another book that I used to read like that. Yeah.
I hear Oprah talk about that book often. Seed of the Soul.
I love that book. I've had that book. I don't have a copy now, but I've had probably like 5 or 6 copies of that book where I'll have it, then I'll find a copy, then I give it to somebody else. So I don't have one now. I'm gonna order one tonight though. But Seed of the Soul and The Art of Happiness are 2 of those books that are like that, where they're not like long books, they're not hard to read, but it's just, if you take the most basic aspects of them and apply them, then they can have a big impact.
And I think that a lot of people, they kind of steer away from wanting to do the motivation. I mean, not the motivation, but the meditation, because they don't understand it. And especially a lot of people of color don't really understand it. But if it can be broken down into, these simple ideas that they can apply right away, I think that we can all benefit from that,
And then
you would have loved my episode that I did the last episode that I did was all about meditation. I had a gentleman on who was from Spain, from Madrid. He is one of the spiritual leaders at this place called the International Foundation for Spiritual Unfoldment. And so he came and we actually meditated together on the podcast, which was great. Yeah. So that one was good. You got to go back and look at it.
I'll say that our people are familiar with meditation, just not in the if you look at how a lot of times you would think that it comes from somewhere like Asia, or it's usually associated with that culture. But for us, the connection to our culture would be prayer, because you don't have to necessarily just meditate on, however you may view it. You can meditate in prayer. You could go to prayer and meditate, and it would do the same thing. It can help shift you into an alpha wave level of consciousness, because even in prayer, if you zone out and solely focus on your prayer, then your brain can't focus on a lot of other things, and that will allow you to get single, and close with it. So a lot of times we meditate, but it may not look the same because our cultural exposure is not the same as it is in other areas.
I think one of the difference between the prayer and meditation is that typically in meditation we're silent, but while we're in prayer we're talking. And so sometimes, as you were saying, in the Steer Clear, you got to listen, and a lot of times we just don't know how to listen.
I have exercises in there that talk about that. I have another course called the seven Jewels of Greatness, where I talk about being attentive, and I try to give strategies of things that you could do to help you become a better listener, whether it be listening to presentations and taking notes, or listening to audiobooks and doing a book report, or just a variety of different things that you could do to help form the habit. Because a lot of times, a lot of things that we do are habitual. And if you don't have the right habits formed, then when the pressure's on, your habit's going to show up. That's why people always say, you're so positive all the time. But it's because I worked on it. Like, I didn't just wake up and just like, I'm going to be a positive person. I remember,
it's a journey.
It is
definitely a journey.
I remember losing one of my close friends. I moved to Phoenix, but I was living in
Atlanta. I remember you told me about that.
And one of my close friends was assassinated. And I remember just being so close to that situation, so sad, for just, and I really had to focus and start working to build, my mindset back up. I'm paranoid, I'm traumatized, and I'm just, I remember waking up out of my sleep. I wrote a song about it called "It Worst If I Fall." I woke up out of my sleep one night crying, like just, trying to be strong. And then, you just break and you just hit that point where it's just like, you just can't be strong for nobody no more. Mm-hmm. But it took me a while to understand that, you got to work on your mind every day, particularly when things are good. You start forming the habits of being positive. I mean, my positivity irks people.
You know what? It's funny. I think when you're too happy, too excited, too joyful, people don't know how to take it.
Yeah, but
I've had people tell me all the time, you always smile and you always what? What's wrong with smile? I wake up every morning in joy.
I try to tell them that's my defense mechanism, because they don't know. I live with a lot of traumatized, a lot of things that traumatized me over the course of my life. So if I embrace all of the trauma, my story would be so sad. And I don't want my story to be no sad story, because everybody got bad stuff that happened to them.
Absolutely.
So my mindset is, when I remember my grandma told me, she used to say, baby, the things that man used for your bad, God will turn around and use for your good. Absolutely. That was the foundation of my optimism. So for me, I think it's Newton's third law. Isn't it Newton's third law that says for every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction? Mm-hmm. So when you think about the adversity that you're facing, and if you're a true believer, then you will know that anything that bad is happening to me is going to be a balance on the other side. So sometimes, people will be like, man, don't you know how bad this is? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not focused on how bad it is. I'm focused on the fact that I believe that I'm going to make it out. Yeah.
Yeah, like what's the strategy? Yeah.
Yes, so that's what my mind is. I'm not going to dwell in it, bad. Mm-hmm. That's why people called me when they first found out I had cancer. They didn't know how to call me or how to approach me or what to say to me or how I was going to be feeling or what to talk about with me. I'm like, man, don't bring that pitiful energy around me. I ain't going to bring it around you.
I know that's right. I mean?
Like, I ain't bringing it around you. So when they called me and I'm still the same, because my habits, my mind has been cultivated to be this way. When I talk about cultivating a motivated mindset, like, these are things I do. Like, I live this. Like, I don't just talk about it. Like, I live this for real. Like, this is my real life. Like, I really cultivate a motivated mindset. Like, every day. Like, this is what I do. And that's what Be the Greatest is about. It's about the state of be. We do so much so we can have a lot.
Right.
But we're not created to be human havings. We're not created to be human, doings or having. We human beings. So we got to be what we were called to be and not do what we was, we can't be what we do. We got to be what we be.
Yeah. And I think that's how when you be what you be, that's how you find your purpose, or your purpose will find you. Mm-hmm. I would have never guessed that being a speaker would have been something that I would have did. I mean, in my mind, I was going to be a fashion designer for the rest of my life. That's what my goal was. And me being who I was, I mean, it just found me. And I think that's a piece of advice for everybody that's listening. If you can just be what you be, your purpose will find you. Absolutely. Your purpose will find you.
I think for a lot of us, our true purpose lies in our uniqueness.
Yeah.
And our individuality.
Absolutely.
But we are so pressured by the external pressures that we don't feel comfortable embracing our own uniqueness, because it's not like what we see on social media or TV. And it just kind of makes us not want to be what we be. It makes us want to do what somebody else does so we can have what they got. Yeah. But it doesn't make us want to be what we be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think I was able to kind of scoot around that whole situation because with me being in fashion, the last thing a fashion designer wants is to be like another fashion designer down the street.
Exactly,
You know, that's the
exactly.
last thing we want. And so,
Hmm.
you know, being an individual has always been something that's been really important to me. But I wanted to, because this is Student Access 101, I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about your thoughts on ways that schools and administrators can begin to help those individuals who are re-entering back into educational spaces after going into remission, because there's been some research that talks about the fact that a lot of times schools aren't ready. They don't know how to re-enter. Like, so from your experience, what are some things that might be able to be put in place that students can be able to benefit from, or teachers can benefit from, that are re-entering into these educational spaces?
Well, I think one thing is for the patient, first of all, is you have to be an advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
Because right now, to be honest, I've had like opportunities, job opportunities to step back in the classroom to teach. Their openings. I've had multiple principals to extend the opportunity to me personally. And as a person who wants to give and the person who loves the academic environment, loves being a teacher, sometimes it's just like, man, I could jump back in, grab me a contract, work those
Yeah.
9 months, make me live 60, 70,000. That's like, but I know truthfully that my mind and my body not even on that level right now. Like I
Yeah.
get tired way easier, I get frustrated quicker. So for me, I have to be an advocate for myself to be able to know what I can and can't do and what my limits are. And then also you have to make sure that you effectively communicate that to the people you're going to be working with. So if you are a teacher and you get ready to educate, get transition back in, you need to listen to your body, what your body is saying to you, the vibrations, what's going on, what is it telling you? Because school is a stressful environment. And
Absolutely.
if you're put back in a situation where your body is not appropriately healed and your mind is not appropriately stable, you could do more detriment to yourself than you
Mm.
can if you just waited. So you got to listen to yourself to be able to understand what your body is saying and then communicate that effectively to the people that you're going to work with. If you're an educator and you know that your mind is not on that level, like my mind is not the same since the surgery. I had a 10-hour surgery and had like 100 hours of chemotherapy. So my mind has not been the same. I delivered 2 speeches back to back. And you know what happened in the middle of the speech? My mind went 100% blank.
Mm.
100%.
Wow.
Like completely blank. I passed out in the doctor's office. And when I woke up from the doctor's office, I thought I was on stage. And I said, oh my God, my mind went blank. And I dropped my head down like this. And I was thinking like, oh my God, what was I thinking? What was I talking about? Where am I at? Oh my God. So it's like now that I understand that my mind is not the same, there was a point where I would forget things like 7, 8 times a day. I started tracking it. It was abnormal. So if I would have just rushed myself back into an academic environment, knowing that my mind wasn't ready, knowing that my body wasn't ready, I would have ended up doing myself more hurt than I would have
Yeah.
just by saying, let me take a little bit more time to make sure my body is good. I know
Right.
everybody doesn't have the luxury of doing that. Some people have to get forced back into the work environment. But the main thing is you got to listen to your body. You got to take care of your body, and you need to effectively communicate with the people that you're going to be working with that may be impacted by the things that you couldn't normally do, because they may hold you to, like now people will hold me to the same level that I was at before I had cancer, before I went through chemo, before I went through um, surgery, but that's not a realistic
Yeah.
expectation for me
Yeah.
personally. And if I try to
Right.
live up to that same expectation and I fall short, it's going to be frustrating for me. And then it's
Yeah.
also not going to allow me to be as productive in the area that I was before. So then it could potentially hurt my team. So it's just a
Right.
matter of knowing, where you personally are and
And I
then
think, yeah,
effectively.
but for kids, and I'm thinking about too, like for students that might be coming back to school, um, oftentimes the children may not know how to voice, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what they might need. How can teachers be advocates for them?
I think it's going to be up to the parents to make sure that they effectively advocate on behalf of their children. Because, like you said, when you're going through, I went through cancer as an adult. It
Yeah.
was just the the mental like torment of what you go through is way beyond what I would have thought before I personally went through it. So as a child, you may not be able to articulate that. So the parents will have to make sure that they are advocates on behalf. And if the teacher knows it, then they need to communicate to make sure that they have that communication, because when you're integrating back into the classroom, particularly for someone who's fighting cancer, it may not necessarily be just about academia at that point. It may be about being around an environment that's going to help you see some normalcy, that's going to make you feel the same, that's going to help make you feel encouraged, that's going to help make you. So it's a lot of grace, and a lot of mercy, and a lot of compassion, and a lot of communication between the teacher and the parent, so that way they can get an effective communication plan. And this one thing I believe, I believe that every kid has an individual, what I call a ISP. Everybody knows about the IEPs in education, but ISP, the individual success plan. And as educators, we have to be able to understand those particular needs of the student by being attentive, paying attention, communicating with the parents, identifying it and addressing it. And I hope that if there are children out there who are in that situation where they have to go from dealing with cancer, chemo, battling, and then getting integrated back into school, that it'll be a communication that the parents will have with the administration, so that way it could be a team effort. Because when you're fighting cancer, you can't be isolated. It has to be a team goal, and everybody needs to be on board to understand how to serve that particular student, because that's a special case. Because the majority of students at any given school are not going to go through having to battle and fight cancer. So those special provisions that are made for their students is not something that's going to have to be made for everybody, because that's a special case. But if the teacher or the educator doesn't know, if they're not aware, if the administration is not on board, if the parents are not effectively communicating to the school, then it's going to be a breakdown for that particular child, and the child is going to be the one that ends up being hurt. So if parents, I would recommend that the parents effectively communicate with the administration and the teachers. And teachers, if you know, then you effectively communicate with the parents, so that way you guys can work together to advocate on behalf of the student who may not be able to articulate exactly what they're thinking or exactly what they're feeling.
Yeah. Wow, that's good advice. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to discuss?
Let me think. Is there anything else out there? We talked about the books. We talked about with June being National Cancer Survivor Month, I would like to say, that everybody out there has some battle or something that they are fighting against. In my case, it was cancer. But your case is going to be something else. Somebody else's cancer. I know some people who are fighting sickle cell, who are fighting lupus. I know some healthy people who are not sick at all that are dealing with mental issues. I know some people who lost a parent, some people who lost a spouse. So everybody has something. Has something. That's why I don't lead with, oh, I got cancer, because somebody else might be like, hey, I do too. You know what I mean? So it's like, and in the cancer center, everybody got cancer. So that's not even a conversation starter. Hey, what are you in for? You know what I mean? Like, we're all in there for the same thing. So I would just say, whatever your battle is, just know that even on your worst day, that we have the potential to go from being at our highest high to our lowest low. And we always have to be conscious of that personally, and conscious of that to have compassion for other people, because my high day may be your low day, and vice versa. So we just have to be compassionate, be considerate. And even though this is National Cancer Survivor Month, we are all survivors of something.
Absolutely.
And I just want to encourage people to do the work, cultivate a motivated mindset. Don't think that you're just going to be a positive person overnight, like it's just going to happen. Go out there, fight hard for your mind, advocate for yourself, focus on your health, make sure that you, I use what I call the New Start program, which I outlined in my book. And it gives you a simple strategy. New Start is the acronym: nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest, and trusting yourself in God. So get you a strategy, a plan together, and help take your life to the next level, because the ultimate goal is to be the greatest you that you can be. And
absolutely. Well, this was wonderful. And how can people get your books and how can they learn more about what you're doing?
You just go to ydratenelson.com. It's just my first and my last name.com. And there you have my books on there. You can contact me directly from there. And my email is there, so you can contact me on email. You can connect with me on social media there. I try to check my social media accounts frequently, my email daily. So you can always go straight to my website, and everything is located and housed right there at that one spot. The books, information, contact, social media, everything.
ydratenelson.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's see. So this is it here.
Yes, ma'am. That is it
All
right
right.
there. That is
All
it.
right.
That is it.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, my brother, it was wonderful to talk to you. I'm glad that I got a chance to spend this time with you, and you're just a tremendous force of what God can do. And you now have an even bigger story that you can tell when you
Yeah.
go and talk to, individuals about your journey. And I mean, the way that you can, I mean, the possibilities of what you can do is just, it's just, it's so big. It is
Yeah.
really, really big. And that stage that you were talking about with Les Brown, with all of those people on it, I
Mm-hmm.
envision that's what I always envision, is me being able to have a crowd that big that comes to see and talk to me. And eventually we will have that. We will have that, my
Absolutely,
brother. We will have it.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
we definitely
Yeah.
will. We definitely will.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
want to be able to have the impact of the people. Because
Yes.
I was talking to someone earlier today. So it's not just about being on the stage in front of people or making money or charging people a fee. It's really about adding as much value as you possibly can. I did a professional training in Portland last week, a week before last, for about 30 teachers. And I'll say 80% of those teachers cried.
Yeah.
Like literally from 3 minutes in, they was already crying. By the time we got to the end, just about everybody had cried. And my ultimate goal was not to go there to get a check, but they told me what the problem was. So I went there to provide solutions.
Absolutely. That's what we do.
To
That's
add
what we're
value.
supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's
Servicing. I always say this is a service. This is a service job.
absolutely.
I'm here to serve. Whatever it
Absolutely.
is that God wants me to say, I always ask him, you speak through me so that I can
Mm-hmm.
speak to your people. Because I mean
Absolutely.
this is a service job.
It truly is. It truly
Hmm.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening, my brother.
Oh man, thank you for having me. You do the exact same, and like I said, I have much love and respect for what you do, how you facilitate yourself, how you carry yourself as a leader in our community, and I'm happy to be affiliated with you. And I'm glad to know that my daughter have people like you to be able to look
Oh,
up to as examples of what she could be for the future. So thank you, madam.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Have a good night. All right, everybody. So this is the part of the episode where I talk a little bit about some of the research, because as you guys know, I'm an educator, I'm a researcher, and it's really important for me that any topic that I talk about, that I give a little bit more back story about where this information is coming from and why is it so important. And so I'm going to put up on the screen a ticker here, that shows the research that I looked into in preparation for the interview with Hydrate. And so one of the things that is so important is that the research is talking about how to properly have a positive impact on the education achievement levels of students. Is that whole reentry process that me and Hydrate were talking about is so important, that schools figure out a plan. The research talked about the fact that in order to have a successful reentry, schools must begin at the start of diagnosis. So instead of them being a support system when the student or the teacher or staff member comes back to school when they're in remission, once that person has a diagnosis, that's when the support should start. It should not start when they're in remission. Schools should also create an individualized academic plan. And that was something that Hydrate had mentioned, that it should be a very specific plan to support and advocate for that student. Guidance for parents around resources and processes. schools visit to educate peers and personal school personnel, educators having workshops. It's really important that the entire school space know how to support that person. So if they have to have a workshop, or maybe they might have to have some kind of a seminar or a specialist come in to talk to the faculty and staff about how to support that person, it's all going to be worth it for that person's success in the school environment. And so I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And I hope that you are feeling empowered by our conversation today. And this particular episode is brought to you by Be the GOAT, Career Readiness Manual for First Generation Students and Young Professionals. And what's amazing about this book is that this book is going to be able to take students from their school graduation into their career. Whatever their career might be, this book is going to help them get to that place. And my goal is to be able to give 1,000 students this year these critical skills. And so I am a quarter of the way there. I just recently sold 50 more of these books to a university. And so I'm hoping that you will want to jump on this bandwagon and help me out and support the mission to give this critical information to the students. And so this book can be purchased on Amazon. If you want to know more information about it, maybe if your school wants to purchase the book in bulk, please reach out to me. And you can reach me at info@drtamikaellington.com. A course for this book is going to be coming very soon, so please be on the lookout for that. And thank you all for listening tonight. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave a comment for me in YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Share it with your circles of friends. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And together we can do this. Together we can change the trajectory of equitable education for underrepresented students. And always, let's empower, let's educate, because there's no success without student access. Peace and blessings, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for being with me this evening.